Hello everyone, I am Charlie Tolhurst and welcome to my latest video. Now, I want to talk specifically about what happened last weekend in London regarding the covering of the anti-lockdown protests in the UK. Now, last weekend, we saw a huge, 2 days, Saturday and Sunday, we saw a huge amount of protesters, a huge amount of people in the thousands going into London and protesting against the government's delay of easing restrictions. Now, it's been a tumultuous week for the government. Obviously, at the weekend, we had the bombshell from Downing Street that confirmed that the Health Secretary, the previous Health Secretary, Matt Hancock, resigned. He's now been replaced by Sajid Javid. By the way, you can watch his statement on YouTube of him in the House of Commons just the other day about coronavirus. But, yes, it's clear now that the change in Health Secretary is interesting. But as well as that, the government on the weekend were pressurised by members of the public who went out there and protested against the continuation of social distancing restrictions. Of course, you might remember on June the 14th, when we had the press conference at Downing Street, the Prime Minister Boris Johnson delayed the reopening by an extra 4 weeks to July the 19th. And it was to do with the Delta variant of coronavirus known as the Indian variant, or the B1617.2. That's the correct variant, the one that first identified in India. That's now all over the world apparently. But this is my view on this. I am now here today on my video today. I'm going to react to what happened at the weekend, and I'm also going to react to some news as well, just in the other day, that I'm going to talk about. Now, I will react mainly about the protests, but there was also another thing that happened that I will mention towards the end of this video. Now, at the weekend we had a protest in London. Thousands of people attended a march towards Downing Street, and I have to agree with them. Enough is enough. We need to end these restrictions as soon as possible. I am calling for the government to lift the restrictions on July the 19th. Because I know cases are rising, but they're in younger age groups. And as we know, our vaccines, whilst they might not be 100% effective, are stopping people going to hospital. They are stopping many people from becoming seriously ill with this disease. And most importantly, we are protecting the NHS. There is this theory going around that the NHS will be overwhelmed in the winter. That is simply not true. People should not be thinking like that. People should not be sharing downbeat and very downbeat messages. Project Fear is something we don't want to be living with. And scaremongering isn't either. But everyone who went out at the weekend, I was definitely looking at them, and I don't blame them. These people who were protesting against the lockdown, I don't blame them. Because they are going out, and we need freedom of speech to be very important in this country. Freedom of speech is a big issue, guys. It's a big subject. Because if you think about it, there is a lot of wokery around, you know. Many people are fed up with nonsensical news. They just want to go out there and have their say. And we really want people to go out there and have their say on freedom of speech. So I was absolutely delighted to see some people down there. Obviously, Julie Hartley-Brewer, Lawrence Fox, some very famous celebrities going out there and actually valiantly protesting against these restrictions peacefully. This is what we want. We want to see people out there having their say. Don't feel shy, guys. I really want people to have to say, and I was really surprised with the huge turnout we had at the weekend. It was very impressive. And I really want people to go out there and have their say. What wasn't so good, though, was, and I will go on to this, there was some protesters there who were not complying with the social distancing rules, but not in social distancing terms. There was some protesters there that weren't actually complying in a very orderly way. No, there was if you might remember at the weekend, BBC Newsnight journalist Nick Watt was targeted and threatened by a baying mob of protesters. And Nick thankfully ran into safe cover. Obviously, there wasn't much police presence at the event, which was a bit annoying. But Nick did run to a safe place. The protesters did turn on him. The mob did turn on him. But thankfully, the BBC Newsnight journalist made a very miraculous escape. Very quick escape, should I say. And he was albeit a bit shaken after his little concertina with the mob in question. So it was clear that there was definitely some issues, and I will say that breaking mob rule is the wrong thing to do. If you may remember last year's Black Lives Matter protests in London, it quickly turned violent and many statues across this country got torn down, including the one of Edward Colston, which I highly condemn, because we need British historical significance in this country. So this anti-lockdown protest was peaceful. It was mostly peaceful apart from a few people who did decide to go a bit too far with the radicalisation, and I condemn the people who did try to attack the journalists. So I do think that it's right to have the say. Now, what was shocking was what was said on the Guardian newspaper just the other day, and obviously on GB News I watched Dan Wootton on GB News the other day, and also Bev Turner, who, by the way, is an anti-vaxxer. And Dan Wootton clashed with Bev Turner on this. There is a difference between this and an anti-lockdown protest. Now, the Guardian claimed this was an anti-vaccination protest. However, though, I view that as completely fake news. This is untrue. It's all lies. This was an anti-lockdown protest because people there, if you saw all the propaganda stuff there was propaganda posters around. There was people writing on placards saying, end these restrictions, no more masks. There wasn't anywhere that, I did not see anyone there who said don't take the vaccine. So in a way that was very fake reporting from The Guardian. And it's clear that the mainstream media do not cover these protests. They need to be covered, guys. It's the same, they don't cover what's happening in the Channel at the moment as the migrant crisis continues to accelerate. More people crossing into the UK. They don't seem to cover that. They're not seem to be covering the issues like the anti-lockdown protests. I know that journalists have to go out there and do their job. Obviously, I condemn what happened with Nick Watt. I do think journalists have to go out there and do their job, but in a safe way. But, as I've said, peaceful protesting, there is nothing wrong with peaceful protesting. But as for mob rule, you shouldn't break it. But I don't understand though, like, this is not an anti-vaccination protest. This is a protest about anti-lockdown. I'm a pro-vax. I want people to have personal responsibilities to take the vaccine. I'm encouraging them to take the vaccine. I myself have been double jabbed. The vaccine is what is going to get us out of this eventually. But I am anti-lockdown. I am against the lockdown. I feel like lockdown will lead to more mental health problems and certainly more deaths, especially in the winter when you look at cancer deaths, people who will die from flu and also from other diseases. It's going to be horrible. So we need to see the NHS really using extra capacity to get these people checked out who regularly need checking. And even again, vaccinate the most vulnerable. Think about what the booster jabs can use. So it's clear that the government must have a credible plan going forward, but also these people who were at the protest the other day, as long as they acted in a lawful way, are fine. So that was the anti-lockdown protest. I just want to finish on some news regarding Chris Whitty, who is the Chief Medical Officer for England. And I've been very critical of Chris Whitty throughout this pandemic. Obviously, I know some of the doomsday scientists have predicted. Now, Chris Whitty is a very controversial figurehead in government. However, though, I wasn't very happy with the way he was treated earlier today. A couple of people did harass him, and that is absolutely wrong. You should not be harassing, especially someone who is one of our top scientists in the country. I condemn these thugs who tried to harass Chris Whitty today. I understand people's opinions, but I don't understand that you should be basically trying to just basically as I said, trying to harass a top member of our own government. I know I've been very critical of Sage throughout this pandemic, but what they done to Chris Whitty was wrong. It was diabolical behaviour. It was vile behaviour. Frankly, this is vile thuggery. And yeah, these people should be arrested for what they done. I do condemn what happened to Chris Whitty. I thought the way he got treated was absolutely absurd, and I think, frankly, these people who did harass Chris Whitty should be dealt with by the police in a very laudable manner indeed. So that's it for this video about COVID, about the anti-lockdown protest. I did cover as well about Chris Whitty. Please comment down below and like, subscribe to my YouTube channel. Most importantly, I'll alert you when new videos are uploaded. Thanks so much for listening, everyone. Take care. Goodbye.